So the other night I was sitting around the campfire with John Rambo and I asked him, if you were going to design a brand new knife, what would you name it? And he immediately shot back and said,
yeah, I would definitely call it the Recondo.
Well, SOG must have been listening in on that conversation, because new for 2022 is the SOG Recondo FX. This has the makings and potential of an excellent duty knife, ultralight field knife. This is definitely in that same vein, but there's some definite attributes and aspects to the blade, including the grind, that's a little bit different than you might expect, that I have seen and have really thumped on it here in the Blade Boot Camp here in rural Pennsylvania for the last several weeks. All right, let's hit this blacked out, tie-dye coated blade. You can get it serrated. I went plain edge because, of course, plain edges are better. Fact check, true. So I just like using plain edges more. Those of you like serrated, awesome, they have that option. This one is going to be 4.6 inches overall blade length with a stock thickness back here of 0.16, so 5/32 of an inch thick right back here, but it tapers real quick. You can see that this is a very thin, slicey blade, and that tip is extremely precise. What does that mean? That means that with that huge swedge, it's going to stab and penetrate excellently well. So if you're looking for a tool that can pierce, slash, and penetrate, this is an excellent choice. The downside, the lateral strength is not going to be there compared to some other field knives that we're going to look at here in competitive options in a little bit. So that means you can't be a moron and go cranking side to side on it, trying to dig out, like a piece of wood or something. You're going to probably snap the tip right off, even though it is made with
Cryo 440C steel.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen 440C on a blade, specifically something made in Taiwan, one of our allies with great fit and finish, excellently executed. Rockwell 58 to 60, and then it has their cryo treatment. The cryo treatment. I don't know if that's just a marketing ploy or not. I've never been to the SOG factory. All I know is that in years past when they do cryo D2, cryo OS 8, and they put cryo treating, they heat treat it and then they quench it, and do a cold treat. It tends to hold its edge better than just standard OS 8 you're going to get off the shelf or D2. So I would argue it's going to probably be a little bit better. I mean, rewind 20 years ago, custom makers were using 440C as their stainless steel option. So, I mean, it's an excellent steel. I think it's an excellent choice. It's rust resistant. It's going to hold a good edge and is in the family of like 154CM, VG10, and those type of steels. So I think it's a great choice, and it's just cool. Kind of a retro blade steel. And I think that SOG executes it very, very well. Now, this blade, again, it's designed as, a combat utility knife. So, I mean, stabbing and piercing is what its intended purpose is, going through man-made materials, cordage, rope, nylon, rubber, tubing, that type of stuff. It's going to do excellent at in the piercing and stabbing. Secondary is like woodscraft, so that's something that you just need to know going into it. I mean, it will absolutely be able. I pounded on this thing, I mean, slammed on it, but with batoning, I did excellent carving and feather sticking with it just because of how thin the blade is, and I'm about to talk grind with you here in just a moment that even accentuates that some. Some of you might absolutely hate the grinding that I'm discovering on this. But feather sticking, that type of stuff is great. It does have a 90-degree spine, so you could easily throw sparks and get a fire going. If you had to, though, in the way that this is designed, you wouldn't be making a fire. You're trying to evade detection and capture, and fire is like one of the worst ways to do that. But if you're using this as a camp knife, hiking knife, backup survival, totally could do that. This swedge is so thin, it is not fun to do notches with. And if you like putting your thumb up on the spine and, like doing push cuts, you really got to go all the way back before the swedge starts to really get the, blade used, or to get that pressure on there. It is not fun because of how thin it is to put pressure on the spine up close to the front. So it's something to be aware of. But basic woodscraft you could get stuff done with. Now, what's really interesting, and this is the part that it takes, you got to discover stuff. And when I looked this up on every single website, SOG doesn't say anything. I tried to reach out to them because they're now owned by GMS Outdoors. I couldn't get it through to anybody. And everywhere says that this is a flat grind, except for one place, which also has the cheapest price point right now that we'll talk about a little later, and that's GP Knives. They stated that this had a very mild, hollow grind, and I was like, really? So I took a look, and I did my little light test. When you put a a piece of straight material, you know, like a ruler or something, up against the blade, if you see a gap and light underneath, that means it's a hollow grind with a slight concave. This has that, similarly to, say, like a Buck 119, and it does not have it when you look at like a saber grind or something like that. So this has, from my testing and what I'm looking at, and even when I feel the blade edge and the slight concaving, this has a very mild hollow grind. What does that mean? That means, again, for military you know, applications of slashing, stabbing, piercing, it is wicked for those type of things, finer carving, because the thickness behind the edge is thinner. The downside is, you could argue is going to be thickness and toughness of lateral strength that we'll talk about again in competitive options in just a moment. So slicing capability is excellent, but it's not going to be quite as laterally strong as, say, a saber ground blade. So they are sacrificing lateral strength for a leg up on slicing and slashing capability. So that's something that you need to consider. It's very mild, so it's not like got a crazy shoulder on it or anything. And I did pound on this thing, guys, as hard as I could to try and see if it was going to have any sort of issues, but it's holding up well. I think part of that is just the 440C steel, which is an excellent, again, choice. And so that's what I'm seeing. Feel free to leave a comment below. I'll annotate in if someone gets back to me. But from all of my testing, what I can tell what a hollow grind is, I believe this does have a hollow grind on the tool, and I look forward to hearing the comments below what you guys think of a hollow grind on a blade like this. Now, the handle is going to be about 5 inches long. It is a full tang construction. You can actually see the exposed tang back here in the lanyard hole. Has a little SOG notched in, and I'm super glad that the branding is way dialed back on this tool. It's very small up here in the corner, and that's it. And then you have a very small little stamping inside the lanyard hole on the tang saying SOG. So that's awesome, and that is something I just wanted to state. I'm so glad they don't have like branding on the handle and all this stuff, and just makes it look like, you know, you picked it up at the, you know, mini mart, you know, while you're filling up with gas, which a tank of gas is probably about as much as this thing is going for right now, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. Now, what this has is a hardened glass reinforced nylon polymer around that tang, and then rubberized overmold that you can see here kind of in texturing, very reminiscent of the Gerber STRONGARM. And I think it's excellent. It's gonna be 0.55 on the thickness, so a little bit on the thin side that we'll see here momentarily, but I think some of that's made up in the height. It's a pretty tall from back to front handle there. My large size hands grips it easily, and when I was doing harder push cuts, I didn't feel like it was too thin or like I was holding a pocket knife or something. And I think some of that is because they kept the neck up here where a lot of your leverage point is thick all the way through, and they didn't taper it down. If they had tapered it down, that would not have been good, but they've done a good job giving you a really good grip, really warm to the touch, excellent deep cut in there. You know, some blocky jimping along the back spine that's not overly aggressive, that you can easily put your thumb there all day and, you know, do push cuts or something, and it wouldn't cause an issue, but you're not going to accidentally slide out of it. And then you do have a really nice shelf with a little jimping right there. That's not really designed for a non-lethal or even hammering. I guess you could probably do like a tent peg with it, but I wouldn't do any like nails, and I wouldn't really think it's that good for like a non-lethal strike. Probably better than nothing, but it does work excellently as a reverse shelf there, so that if I was using it in a tactical role, stabbing and piercing, I am super locked into place. I am not concerned about riding up and hurting myself or losing grip on the tool. And part of that is because it's kind of got that elongated design there, not blocky at all, and really gets me gripped into place. So for a combat utility tool, I think it's excellent. There's really no issues. Sure, would I like to see it maybe 0.7 on the thickness? Yeah, absolutely. Does it absolutely get the job done and not cause any hot spots in my hand or feel too thin? That is also true. Now, for us to talk about the sheath, you literally need an instruction manual because it comes with one. There's so many moving parts of the sheath. In some ways, I think that's really good. In some ways, it could be kind of complicated, and only long-term usage will really tell if all of the features can really hold up over the long haul. Initial quality testing is pretty epic, but I'll just walk through some of the basic stuff with you. There's much more than just this. So you're gonna get matching color with whatever the handle is. Sheath currently, on one side, there's nothing, it's just nice and slim, lots of lashing points, so if you did wanna do paracord and that type of stuff, it is completely ambidextrous. You just reverse the blade and it snaps in opposite. So I mean, that's pretty awesome, and I really like that a lot. So that's a really cool feature to have. I mean, that is quiet. So for stealth, excellently done. Most polymer style sheaths are rattly. This is not. This is very quiet for a polymer sheath. And so that is, again, I mean, if we're using this as a, you know, soldier knife, military knife, I mean, you want that, right? So on the back side here, we have this. It's so interesting. I believe it's aluminum. It could be stainless steel. I'll try and annotate it in if I can. You pull these and they free themselves up, and then they can slide through PALS webbing on your LBE system or run on a belt, and then you know, squeeze and put them back together. They're actually very quick and easy to attach or remove. And then you have like this Swiss cheese pallet underneath with 2 screw or 3 screw points. So you can literally rotate this in like 10 different directions if you want to. So you can have it in any of your favorite grips that you might want. Because of how tight it is, you could easily, you know, run it upside down, you know, like a downward 45 and pull, you know, cross draw. There's lots of different options there, and you could remove it completely, put a blade tech lock on it. Some of that is because of these adjustable tabs. These have an Allen head Torx screw kind of, yeah, it's a Torx right there. So you can tighten and loosen them if you have to, but basically you just slide them down. And if you do that, makes it very smooth and very low tension on the blade. Basically, if you're carrying it on your hip, which it does come with a rubberized polymer attachment that you could unscrew this plate, screw this on, snaps around the handle. You can just carry it like drop legs. I mean, they literally thought of everything in that regard. Or if you're doing more like upside down, you can adjust it 8 different tension points that are independent from each other. And then it's very tight and gonna keep it in place, particularly again, if it's upside down. So initially, I mean, they've literally thought of everything and giving you so many options. To me, out of the gate, having used it for a few weeks now, it's been excellent and haven't seen any issues. Over the long haul, how will all the hardware and everything hold up? That is to be determined. I look forward to long-term comments from you guys over the years, how this performs for those of you who have one or are using it regularly as your go-to tool. So we got to hit competitive options and pricing, and I'm gonna have a bunch of links for you guys below, not only over to our distributors in the description box, but also to our new landing page that you can see a really clean layout of all the different affiliates that we, you know, partner with, that you can find this blade on. And if this knife makes sense, or some of the competitive options, or just gear in general, I do appreciate it when you use the hyperlinks provided below. It helps me purchase gear like this and continue to do what I do here at the channel. And you guys here at the Gideon's Tactical family are awesome in your weekly support of the channel through your views, thumbs up, subscriptions, and when a gear item makes sense, your purchasing decisions through those hyperlinks. Now, this guy, cheapest you can find it, GP Knives, $125, I believe is what I paid for it. And usually you can get it between like $125 and $135 right now. So it makes the most sense to run in the Gerber STRONGARM next to the Recondo. If you own the STRONGARM, you're probably thinking about the Recondo. If you don't own either, you're probably looking at either. So this is what I can best hopefully paint the picture for you. The Gerber STRONGARM is going to be in the same vein, but it has a much fatter behind the edge grind, and it has a thicker overall blade and tip, meaning that it's basically bomb proof. You can stab it, you can pry with it, you can do everything and anything, but it's just not going to pierce and penetrate, and it's not gonna slice and cut like the Recondo. And the Recondo is gonna have better edge retention because of the 440C versus the 420HC that the STRONGARM has. Now, that is something to consider. American made with the STRONGARM, overseas made in Taiwan for the Recondo. And you are gonna be looking at, it used to be $70 just recently, and I just saw a price jump, and it looks like the STRONGARM's now going for like almost $90 at some sites. So between $70 and $90, it's crawling up there real quick. It will be cheaper still than the Recondo, but you are going to get some higher performance if you need more precision, I would argue, and longer edge retention out of the tool. The Recondo is the way to go. If you're looking for bomb-proof capability, the STRONGARM is still the way to go. Well, guys, there you have it. In conclusion, but you know, it's definitely designed as a field knife combat tool role. That's what it's designed to do. It is very lightweight, coming in at like 5.5 ounces. I mean, it's a very lightweight package to help those of you who you're trying to decide, you know, you're going on a deployment and you're like, okay, am I going to take 2 more mags, or am I going to carry my knife? Now, with how lightweight and how compact and how optional it is, you can carry both in many scenarios, which is a good thing, I believe. For those of you who are like through hikers, day hikers, and you're looking for a tool that's lightweight that can just get basic stuff done, I think it is a good option, particularly because of how thin and lightweight it is and how modular the attachments are. I think a lot of people who do look at every single ounce and are just looking for a compact fixed blade that's stainless steel, I think this is definitely something to dig into. It's really the bushcrafter that's not going to enjoy this blade. If you're into bushcrafting and making notches and triggers and you're going to, be holding this knife and doing lots of woodwork, it's just not designed for that. There are tons of better options out there. Now, I look forward to hearing the comments below what you guys think of this blade overall, and I always appreciate all the comments. I encourage you to leave a thumbs up as well, and check out the other video popping up. If you're not yet a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe and become part of the Gideon's Tactical family, throwing up content like this every single week. And until next time, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and I'll see you out there.